Okay, so Rob. So yeah, how do we start this?
How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good.
Yeah.
Looking forward to chatting.
I think, but the purpose of this is to obviously help the footballers get 2%, 5%, even a lot more. And that's why you're here. That's
Sure.
why this chat is here, because Rob is a legend.
How did we meet?
We met.
I
I met through another footballer. He was playing in the Premier League, right? Was it Simeon Jackson?
correct.
Canadian international, and he was playing in Premier League. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it was in Germany.
It was
met
Germany
you.
in the Bundesliga.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I went there and worked with him on sort of de-engineering or clearing any negative programming or beliefs or anything out of his game so he's more optimized, I think. And then I came back to Barcelona. I think you spoke to him, and then we met and we did a session.
Yeah. I didn't have a contract. I think I was 29, and no, I was 30. I just turned 30. Came out of MLS with Toronto and Montreal, and then I thought this was it. I was 2 months without a contract. I spoke to you, I think, a week after I signed, and played 4 years in Malaysia.
Right.
And you pretty much hooked that up energetically. No, can I say that? Cut.
But so if coming back to that point where, like a professional footballer is ending his career, let's say, that's extremely difficult. But there's lots of extremely difficult moments in a footballer's life, and it's not just on the pitch. And it's the things off the pitch that usually affects the elite player more than the stuff off than on the pitch, because the stuff on the pitch is controllable, even with huge crowds being abusive and etc. Footballers know that. It's when they step off the pitch, and so that whole concept of a footballer is not just a footballer, it's a kind of human and having to deal with everything. And that forms that formed my my understanding of performance when I was at Chelsea many years ago. I was always looking at the player as just this physical object that I moved around. Like, they'd come into my room and I just go, okay, top off, stand over there. I'll assess them for their movement, right? So I was in charge of ensuring that they didn't get injured. So for me, that was anything that could make them more susceptible to being injured. And also I realized anything that would affect their ability to perform, which is the same thing. And so what I realized is, working with big names, is it was the stuff that was starting to stress them outside the pitch. So non-physical things, so thinking, emotions, fears, other people's expectations, other people's the girlfriend or family health issues, or financial. Funny enough, when a player gets a lot of money, that comes with
bigger problems.
And I remember working with one player who everyone knows, who was a lovely guy, totally innocent, and suddenly got on $100,000 a week. And then there's women in the newspapers saying, yeah, he's my boyfriend. And he was telling me, I just kind of know her. But she asked me for money. And so he was starting to lose control of certain aspects of his life. And that would start to show up in his body. And that's where we start to get a little bit of, what do you mean? Well, we know stress affects us physically. But what I realized was that a lot of the injuries or pain or, like tendonitis or knee problems or shoulder problems, whatever, with the players, there was usually a corresponding emotional issue outside. And that went very much against the medical model that I was working in. And it became more and more obvious to me, even though I'm always trying to see if I'm wrong. Yeah. Because people don't know when they're wrong. They don't see it. So I was like, am I seeing too much into this and everything? But it just became more and more until I went, you know what? I can't work in this environment of everything is just purely physical. And that started my journey 25 years ago into looking at how non-physical things affect the body. There's that story with the goalkeeper. I can go into that sometime. Where he's on the scales.
Yeah. You told me that. We gotta tell you that story.
Yeah.
But so this is what we're talking about here, mainly of so basically more about off the pitch, things that we don't directly see affecting us footballers, but we're improving that, and that's going to improve any players by 2%, 5%, a lot more, and that's what we.
Yeah, and so some people might be watching this and go, "I don't have any problems."
Yeah.
So it's not just outside. So when I'm working with, elite athlete, there's also this is the same thing that happens on the pitch. So what I mean by that is you can have your mind, it wants to score. You want to score goals, and then you miss. You fluff a shot, and then your mind starts to say, you're not good enough, or you should have done better. What will the people think? And your mind. So the principle that is the same as Didier Drogba, Messi, Ronaldo, and every player who plays soccer is that they have a body, they have a mind, unfortunately, and the best know how to control that, or suppress it, shut it down, stop it from talking. And they also have a spirit. That's where people go, what do you mean spirit? So what I mean by that, and this is coming from experience, you don't need to believe anything. You just you need to try out what I'm going to be talking about and see if it works for you.
Yeah.
So no, there's no religion. I'm not trying to push anything on anyone. I just body, mind, spirit. So everyone knows that holy trinity, let's say. But the way I like to talk about it, because I'm not a religious person, is body, mind, spirit. The body is a computer. So everyone has a computer now, or an iPad or an iPhone. So the hardware is the body hardware. The mind is the software that runs on it. And the spirit, for me, is its connection to things outside of it. So
Wi-Fi. Bluetooth.
Like a Wi-Fi, and you can connect with different networks. So a classic example of that energy outside of effect is if you look at Johnny Wilkinson, the England rugby legend. As a kicker, he was world class. He's one of the greatest rugby players of all time. And I worked with his kicking coach, his kicking coach came to work with Joe Cole at Chelsea. And Joe was like, Rob, you're going to love this. And Johnny Wilkinson would put his hands it almost looked like a protection. I think he would clasp them like that to form, and no one would understand it. Everyone copied him afterwards. But what he was doing was he was protecting himself from the energy of the crowd. Which, at that level, if he's doing it, there's something, that he doesn't mess around. He's only about results. And so this spirit or internet connection is having an effect on us the whole time. And that's what I've really come to understand. And you've experienced that, you know, when it's something, you know, an effect maybe coming from a family member or from fans or from a culture, it can come in and affect us. And that's where my work is a bit out there. But, you know, I'm just interested in results. So I try everything. I've tried everything. I paid hundreds of thousands in my education over the years to work with the best. Michael Jordan's physical therapist, you know, Paul Chek over in San Diego, Dr. Ben Abrico in Paris, Guy Voyer in Marseille. I fly everywhere to work with the best physiotherapists. Like, there's countless people, and all I'm looking at is what they're doing. Does it work? And if someone goes, you know, put an egg on your head and light a candle, and they say it works, I'll try it. If it doesn't work, it's out. Yeah. So that body mind. So the computer analysis kind of analogy is something I'm going to be using. I'll be talking about again. Footballers are just computers.
Yeah. For people.
Yeah. Everyone's just a computer.
But yeah, that's. I think that's the main thing. When I want people to try everything, see what works for you, whether it's diet, mental toughness, mental training, or even physical training.
Yeah.
This is the whole point of this chat, is that people gotta discover obviously new ways to get that extra % for peak performance.
Exactly. And so coming back to that idea of you know, say Johnny Wilkinson, like no one had done that before. Now everyone does it. So when he first did that, people probably go, "Why are you doing that?" And maybe he told them. He said, "Oh, protect me from the energy," and everyone laughs at him. And then they go, "Oh,
he doesn't miss. He's
world class. Maybe I should try that." So that's pioneer.
Yeah,
Johnny Wilkinson's a pioneer in that respect. And then recently, I'm not sure. I think we talked about this. There was a guy in the NBA who used sage to cleanse the energy of the court before the game, and he always does it. Now, maybe some people go, "What a load of BS."
Yeah.
You just got to be open. You know, like Native Americans, Buddhists, thousands of years, generations, they've cleaned rooms for negative energy or stagnant energy. The whole Asian system is built on the way you position furniture in a house has an effect on the flow of energy. And all you have to do is move a chair slightly out of position in your house, and you'll be like, no, that doesn't sit right. And footballers are very precise in the changing rooms and where they have their, you know, they lay everything out so that they're prepared mentally. So these are optimization techniques. You know, coming back to the basketball player, I saw that and I was like, yeah, he's onto something, but he's using technology that's thousands of years old and it's smelly.
Yeah. It comes from, you know, a lot of native tribes being able to sage, just cleanse the energy, you know, make sure that we're all balanced. And when we come into this job and we come to this place, it's not anything that I don't do at home that I did today. You know, I saged last game, and I plan to sage, you know, almost every game if the opposing team would allow me to. But literally, it's just more or less for us to stay connected and for us to feel great about going to work and feeling safe and provided for from our ancestors. I'm not going to bring too much of the spirituality into basketball, but yeah, it's part of my native culture, where I'm from.
So Rob, if you could kind of explain what you're all about and your history in football, which I think is a big one, because you've been there, done that, and we all have to learn from you, from your experience, and obviously how you're evolving and what you're all about, really. So if you could start with that, just the clubs, the footballers that you work with. I don't know if you can name drop too many people, but I want everybody to know that, you know, Rob's a real deal. So.
Okay. So I got into football back in university, Chester City. Yeah. And I went there with, you know, wanting to work for a professional club. Yeah. And it was a disastrous experience, but it taught me a lot. It taught me you never talk about player selection to the players. And I had there was an old pro there who'd played high level, and he took me aside one day. He said, "Never talk about what you think the players should be doing." It was so I learned a lot from that experience, even though we got relegated. It was I could write a book about it. It was crazy times. Then I went and helped out. So I was fitness coach. Then I went to Liverpool Academy, worked with Julian Monk, who was the condition guy for the academy there, and I learned loads from him. And I didn't ask to be paid. I just needed the experience, and so we'd go up on the train from Chester University, and I worked for quite a number of months, and it was a fantastic experience. And I worked Neil Mellor. There were quite a few good young players that were around. Gerard had recently left at that time to go to Melwood. Yeah, so there I went to South Africa because I was brought up in Kenya, and there was a possibility to go to South Africa. And I went and was fitness coach, strength and conditioning for Hellenic Academy, which is the largest football academy in South Africa. Amazing experience. I could talk crazy stories about working in South Africa, but wonderful experience. When I came back to the UK, because it was quite unsafe at that time, still is.
So what year was this?
Around
90s?
Yeah, late 90s. Yeah, late 90s, 97, 98.
Yeah.
I don't go back that far too often. When I came back, I got a job at Fulham as academy fitness coach, but also assistant to the first team coach and reserve team coach. And at that time, that reserve team was just full of pros, like sort of older but top pros, being in the World Cup and stuff. It was a horrible experience. I learned a lot, but the fitness coach, French guy, was an absolute psycho, and I ended up, I couldn't stay there. It wasn't an enjoyable experience. It was with Tigana, Louis Sahar, Edwin van der Sar. So it was my first real Premiership club. As with anything, you learn from these experiences. So I took a high level of professionalism and organisation, and that taught me that. So that was great. From there, Fulham, then I started part-time at Chelsea Football Club. I got the physio said, do you do rehab with the players? One of the things that I'm realised over the years that I'm good at is seeing trends in advance and trying things from all over the world to see if it works. So I brought into Chelsea with me like Swiss balls, kettlebells, club bells, all different types of training. And I started off at part-time, and the players really enjoyed working with me, and they started saying to the head physio doctor and to Claudio Ranieri at the time, Rob's not here, why is he not here? He's part-time. Then Claudio Ranieri said, come on tour with us pre-season. And we played, we went to Italy, Rocca Perena pre-season. Then we played Lazio in the Stadio Olimpico or something in Rome.
Yeah. Wow.
And that was an amazing experience. And I gained more and more sort of influence, and they gave me more work, and I started to become not only strength and conditioning rehab, but also they saw that I was interested in preventing injuries. So I developed that department first time in any football club, I think.
Yeah.
Little side story, in that Stadio Olimpico, I learned you never trust the other team.
Yeah.
They closed all the windows, put the radiators on, it was boiling in our change rooms. And we're talking Petit.
And this is a training game.
It was a pre-season friendly, but it wasn't friendly.
No.
And that team at that time was just rammed full of Marcel Desailly. It's just rammed full of quality players, and we ended up second in the league, in the Premiership League. And so I went and asked the kit man. I said, "Excuse me," in bad Italian, "Where's the water?" And he pointed at this tap. You drink that. So we had no water in the change rooms, boiling. And I went to start filling them up, and I think it was Baresi, like one of the top legends. He came up to me and goes, "Never drink that water."
Wow.
And so they were trying to get us to drink the bad water, poisoned water. Yeah. And so we managed to find bottles of water, but that also shows there's a lack of prep.
Yeah.
And an expectation that they would think best of us. So the Finnish coach said, "Rob, can you take Emmanuel Petit out onto the pitch and warm him up?" He said, "I've never done anything like that."
Yeah.
And so there's 40,000 people bouncing up and down. Do you know this level of energy?
Yeah.
I see it as energy, and I was vibrating. My whole body was like, boo, 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 boo.
Yeah.
And so my touch, which isn't Emmanuel Petit's touch level, I couldn't. He was starting to launch the ball. He knew, so he was spinning and whipping the ball really high up into the air to me, and it would come down, and I'd go to and my leg, everything's shaking, and it would go bang on my shin.
Yeah.
And then the crowd I was like, don't become aware of me. And they started going, "Way." So I just remember that. And then at the end of the game, which was not friendly, I went on the pitch because I saw the players coming off really quickly. And as I'm kind of protecting the players going back in, a guy punches me in the face. So that was my first experience of Lazio supporters.
Why did he punch you? Just a supporter.
Yeah, supporter, not the player. Sorry.
Yeah.
Supporter. They run on. I was protecting our players, and one of them punched me in the face. So we quickly.
So you guys won that game, right?
I think so.
Why else would he punch?
Oh, maybe they won, and he just wanted to punch me anyway. He saw my shocking technique. So Chelsea, I was there for quite a number of years. Ranieri was sacked. Mourinho came in, a whole nother level of pressure, and that was amazing. When he came in, it was like how I expected things to be professional.
Yeah.
And he came in, and everyone's like, "Oh my god, this guy's revolutionary," because he's doing a PowerPoint.
Yeah.
But for me, at that time, but now everyone does it. So Brendan Rodgers was there as an under 18 coach, and he was watching and taking notes. Yeah. So Mourinho came in, and then that total football and the way the conditioning. I talked very closely with Rui Faria about how his philosophy of training. I really liked it. It was with the ball, high intensity, manipulating the amount of space or the touches. It was very much they trained the mind and put pressure on the players to adapt to new rules. And the intensity was ridiculous. So just if people want to know about the pressure, when, say, I would go out onto the field and I was watching the players, and I would watch and analyze movement for my own, see if there's a player showing something that wasn't quite right. And let's say the ball went off the pitch and one of his coaches kind of jogged over, the management would go, "Wah!" Scream at him to hurry up. The pressure was eyeballs popping. Yeah. And then it translated in everything. So the pressure on me to get players back, and the medical team, we had the best medical team in Europe, in terms of injuries coming back for those 2 years. Yeah. Which was cool, but the doctor said, don't celebrate because you might have loads of injuries next week, and then everyone blames you, which was another thing I learned. Yeah. So, working with Chelsea, so I worked with very, very high-level players, Jimmy Floyd Hasselbank, Manuel Petit, Marcel Desailly, Chappie Ferrer, ex-Barcelona. Yeah. And then we had this new era with Roman Abramovich, who I actually worked with as his personal trainer. on his yachts and stuff as well. That was interesting. And then with the new lot came, Shevchenko I worked with. I did a lot of. I was constantly trying to improve and look at things. So I brought in eye training. I brought in an expert French eye specialist, working with him on, because I studied in Paris posturology, and the eyes can affect the twisting of the body, scars. I looked at scars in the body, see if it was twisting or tilting the body, teeth. So I brought in a chiropractor. I lacked a bit of confidence, and I was still fairly young, and I knew that my ideas were relevant, but it was difficult talking to scientific, closed-minded people because they just go, "Where's the science?" But if something's new, there's no science. But I'm not there for the science. Science is always late. I'm all about what works. So that's been my philosophy all my life, and Shevchenko, Crespo, Makaleli, Petr Cech, Drogba,
Iron
Robin, Damien Duff, Joe Cole.
Yeah.
Ashley
Cole too, no?
Ashley Cole. He was there. We had Carvalho, fantastic centre back. Yeah. Robert Huth.
Wow.
There's some. That's heavy.
That's one of the best teams of Chelsea.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
And I think I saw the other day Mourinho saying, same manager, different players for Tottenham. So it was like a perfect storm. Mourinho came in, John Terry, Frank Lampard. They were the framework was already there, and then he came in and just cranked up the pressure, and it enabled higher performance.
Mourinho always changing the rules. I always thought that was interesting. Can you expand on that? Well, I mean, why would he change the rules?
Yeah, so
I think I know, but
what I noticed, let's say from all the clubs I worked at, with the Fulham, they had these set patterns of play that they just did again and again, like boom, 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 boom. And it was a little bit of pressure, but not. It was all set for them. At Chester City, there was no pressure. Players just standing around, snowing, and no pressure, no organisation. The most organised team always wins.
Yeah.
Romans. The Romans were the most organised, and they conquered the world. Right. Yeah. It's just so. What Mourinho did is he brought a very structured organisation. So the players were out set time. They were joking around and everything, playing the circle to warm up, but then when it went onto the pitch, it went really serious. And Jose would sometimes pull out, like pick on a player, so that everyone else wouldn't want to be picked on like that. So it was very. What he's thinking about, I don't know, because he's just different animal to me. But what he would do, let's say he does 10 versus 10, or 8 versus 8. Maybe they have a floating player who one team can...
Like a free man.
A free man, yeah. And then it would be two-touch. And so it starts off like that, and he would then go free man change. And then if the player made a mistake passing to him, they would hammer him.
Wow.
All the coaches, all of them, so there was 4 or 5 Portuguese guys would just absolutely hammer him and look for weakness. Yeah. And so what they do is they put pressure on everyone, and then he would say he'd change a rule, and they'd be like, so it's not training. The bodies can adapt, but their mind wasn't used to it, and the pressure just cranked up. I could see it, and I was standing with an injured player. I think I was with Steve Clark, who's
Yeah.
top coach, right? An ex-Chelsea player, Scottish player, international. And he just kind of, I think it was him, he said to me, he goes, this is
Intense.
crazy intense. And you've got Michael Issey and Makaleli like flying into tackles on a Monday morning, like, and then the ball goes, the coach, and then the ball's back in. So there was no softness.
Yeah. Because I think the 10 countries that I played in, we've always had that free man role. The coach always used to change rules, like especially Denmark. But I did have one coach who would just suddenly say, all right, now you 2 touch, you 1 touch, you free touch.
Right.
And then he would just keep changing that.
Yeah.
And I thought that was genius because you got to be switched on. You got to be hearing what the coach wants.
Yeah.
So was Mourinho like super intense with those, like, were the rules like intricate? Like,
No, but the pressure to do it
to
right.
go with the,
So that's where he didn't let any steam out.
yeah.
The pressure was on the pitch cooking, and
Nice.
he was hammering them. And something you said.
So you think that's how he gets results?
Oh yeah, but there's for me, when he came from Portugal, no one knew him,
No.
and he was super pressurizing and
Yeah.
aggressive. And even with the medical team, he would say how long to the physio, and the physio would say, "Gaffer, 4 weeks," and he'd just stand there,
Yeah.
and everything would go quiet, and he wouldn't. So he's applying psychological pressure to the physio until he goes, well, maybe 3 weeks, and then he said, "I'll try and get him ready for 2 weeks," and he goes, "That's what I want," and walked out.
Yeah.
And everyone was like, "Ooh!" I just start hammering the physio, and there's a physio's like, so that it was funny.
Yeah.
Medical team rooms are funny. That's one of the best things about football is the banter.
Yeah. That's where everybody jokes around.
Everyone jokes around, and you have to be able to give it and take it, and that changed me as a person, because you'd have someone come in and say something to you, abusive, insulting, and you'd have to give it back. And I became extremely good at giving it back until. So it's a funny story, but in my medical, so I had a big rehab room, and players would come in after training to do conditioning, like Didier Drogba, Arjen Robben, Damien Duff. But when the players were out, I'd be working with injured players, and then I set up injury prevention circuits for players to do before, based on analysis.
Yeah.
And when the player's injured quite a lot, or there's a group, the banter becomes did, and so they'd walk in and go this, and I'd be like whoa back, and they'd be like what? And then one time John Terry walks in, and he hadn't been in there, and he says, "Buh," and then we all come back at him, go da, 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 and his face just went, and he just walked out. So there was a pressure in everything to perform, right? Yeah, so Chelsea, when I was there, I got very into looking at every possible thing that could affect the body physically. So eyes, teeth, scars on the body, skin of the feet, vestibular system. I'd have a huge eye tracking board where, players would touch the board. But I wasn't doing it for just touching a board. For me, it's not really important. Like, being able to touch lights, you're playing football. What I did was I had 4 quadrants on the board, and so they would do it. And at the end, I'd get a computer readout, and it would show if one quadrant was deficit. And so what that would tell me, then I would look at how the eyes move, and you'll see that, let's say I do a figure of 8 in front of the head of a player like that. What I would be looking for, they would track with their eyes this way, and then they go. They have to move the whole head to track that. So that means that if the ball comes over this side and they're running, and they don't have to move their head that much, but on this side they're going to have to do that, which rotates down into the body. And when you're at full speed, that can be the difference between a muscle tear. These type of things.
Wow.
So the way the head sits on, and the eyes, and the muscles around the eyes. So I was really into that, and At the same time, I was very much getting into my own self-development as a person and looking for why I was anxious all the time, lacked confidence, these type of internal things. And so I did a lot of studying outside in my own life. And I worked with a guy called Paul Chek, American. He's a top conditioning guy. I worked with the big wave rider, Hamilton, Tony Hawk, rehabbed him, top guy.
Tony Hawk, the skater. Yeah.
Tony Hawk, skater, and, a lot of top, special forces over there and stuff. And I went there and I started training with him, and he taught me that your emotions and everything affect your performance. I was like, what? Yeah. It just blew it open for me. And so when I was back at Chelsea, I got more and more into that.
Yeah.
And the story that I'm going to say is, I would have a setup in my room with scales, like weight scales, two of them. I'd have a plumb line. In the background, I'd have lines. I'd take photos, videos, and then I'd analyze all these teeth, eyes, and things to see if I can improve the body. And I could always improve the performance physically. But at that one time, I had the whole medical team around me. I was just about to start my analysis with all my tools. And then I thought, Rob, I'll see if I can get an emotional, see if there's something there. At
trigger
the time,
something.
Trigger something. I wasn't quite sure what I was doing. But this player, I won't say who it is, but he was world class. Everyone knows him. Okay. He was the best in the world at the time. He's standing on one foot on one scale, one foot on the other. And I look down, he's 8 kilos heavier on one leg, which is enormous. And my research with Paul Chek on these scales was like a couple of pounds is significant, or 4 pounds. But he was 8 kilos. So the podiatrist said, oh, that's probably short leg, and which is possible. The chiropractor said, oh, it's probably TMJ and this, and then so everyone sees through their own skills. And what I did, I said, so he's 8 kilos. I was like, wow, that's crazy. And so I said, this player, what's one of the best experiences you've ever had that you're proud of? And you saw him look up, I can't remember which side, but he like a computer, like Googling in his memories and like the folders. So this is where we're very much like computers. And he was like, you could see him go. And then he goes, oh yeah, I remember. And when he connected with it, I didn't care about what he was going to say. I was looking at the scales and he went perfectly balanced. 0. That was my aha moment. Yeah. I was like, what just happened? Like all my hairs have gone up even now. So with all of my 100 grand in skill set training and all of my knowledge of the physical, I just changed him in a second, which is, I wouldn't have been able to do it. So I looked around, and there's another thing I learned is when people, if something is too advanced or out of their belief system, they just glaze over. So that a manager should see that with players. If he's saying stuff and it's not going in, they'll glaze over. They won't, or some people actually fall asleep. Yeah. Because they can't hear it. Yeah. So I said, I looked around and everyone's like, and I was like, oh, I'm not going to explain that to you. And then so I wanted to get an opposite. So that was like a positive thought. So I said, what's the worst day of your life? Which he went, and he got that in a few seconds. I looked down, he was 9 kilos heavier. So
the same side.
Yeah, the same side. Really... Just gone even more out of balance.
Yeah. Was he looking at the scale?
No, he wasn't aware.
He wasn't allowed to.
Yeah. No, he
was just too busy thinking.
Oh yeah. Okay. And footballers, they're just used to being moved around. Yeah. There's very few will start going, what are you doing? Like Arjen Robben. Yeah. He'd be like, what are you doing? Yeah. Why are you doing that? Yeah. Yeah. So he didn't realize. And so what I realized, so I walked home that day. I realized that no one else knew what happened. Because I said, did you see that? Yeah. And they're like, Yeah. And I walked home and I was looking down at my feet and I can see the grass. And I'm like, something just happened that is going to change my life. I don't know what happened, but I need to find out what that was. And so now 25 is quite a number of years later of this, what I realized was the first thought, which was positive, or it strengthened him. So the thought, you know, when you think of something that you're proud of, there's some sort of energy in your body that becomes more balanced.
Yeah.
The Shaolin have known that for thousands of years. Okay, so that's why they put their hand there. Strongest energy point of the body. You take your hand further away, you can feel your energy drop. Like if anyone's watching this, they put their hand there, see how that feels in their body, and then move it away, they will get less. Their energy will.
Can you sit like this and do this, or do you have to?
I mean,
like sit properly.
Yeah, you just try that. You put your hand there, and see how that feels in your torso, and then move it out.
Oh, you just there's a shift.
There's a difference. So you put your hand right over by your shoulder, and then compare the two.
Like here.
Yeah. And then put it back in the middle. It goes zoom.
Yeah.
And so that's just, I mean, there's different ways to feel that. In Tai Chi, Qigong, that's why they, use 2 fingers instead of 3. They put that, if you turn your hands towards you, it strengthens you. Turn your hands away, it weakens you. Turn your feet in, it strengthens you. Turn your feet out, it weakens you. The whole Eastern medical system and philosophy is based on this strong or weak energy. The Taoist principles of yin and yang, positive, negative, strong, weak. Ones, zeros, coding, computers.
Wow.
Okay? So that's so it took me a long time to understand that. So the first thought strengthened him, bang, he was 0. The second thought weakened him and sent him even further out. So we're just a collection of weaknesses like affecting us. So what I do now is, in my job, is I go into that coding level of ones and zeros and find out what's weakening the player, the gold medal athlete, the CEO of a company, entrepreneur, whatever. And when the person becomes aware of them, it dissolves them. So it's like on some level, their own computer regulates that. So the less weaknesses you have, the better you perform. It's simple, but that is no one's doing that.
No one is doing that.
No one's doing that. Not in sport anyway. And it's crazy because you can, with a team, you can have things that are weakening the team. You can have defense and midfield is weak, like the relationship between the two, maybe midfield to defense, can be weak. Now it gets weird when you can strengthen that.
Yeah,
that's where it's like, what? Yeah. But if you took your MacBook Pro back 200 years and you said, I can send an email in 1 second to the other side of the world, they go, no, you can't. That's magic. So magic is just things that tech haven't worked out how to do yet. Okay. I remember when we had computers and the first time someone went on my computer with TeamViewer. Have you had someone go on your computer before from another country?
And control your computer.
Yeah. I was like, oh my God, there's a ghost in my computer. It felt like, oh my God, this is magic. Yeah. But now it's like ordinary for everyone, right? Yeah. But you go back 200 years and you show a MacBook Pro, you'd be burned at the stake. So, so it's kind of, this, so.
So this is very revolutionary still for especially football, but any sport.
And so the people who work with me are open-minded and they're results-orientated. And I have billionaire clients who pay me monthly to look after them. I have, a lot of elite athletes I work with, or gold medal athletes, soldiers. I've worked with special forces, although I don't work with too many soldiers because, they're not so much into their emotions. Okay? But CEOs, you name it, musicians and stuff. And so at Chelsea was where I became aware of this. And in the end, I couldn't stay. There were different reasons why I left, but not being in an environment where people do this. I worked in ballet. They would have been more, they were more open to things like that. So anyway, I left. I had a very difficult, I was about 28. I left Chelsea, I resigned, and I probably didn't do it the right way, but I had to just jump. Had no job. Mourinho told me to off. No one leaves him. I didn't do it the right way, but I'm not very good at the politics. That was another thing I didn't like about football. At the highest level, it's just, you have to watch your back in the politics, and I'm just very much how I am. Then I worked with, I rehabbed Robert Huth up at Middlesbrough. I went up and stayed with him, which was great.
With his knee?
With his ankle. And so while I was at Chelsea, I didn't tell too many people this. I had a picture of Barcelona Football Club on my wall at home. And every time I looked at it, I said, I work for them. So that was kind of my playing around with law of attraction. I wanted to see if it worked. Okay. And I'm open to anything. If it works, it works. If it doesn't, it's out. Whatever, whoever they are, however amazing they are. So every day I would go, I work for them. And I have friends come around and go, why you got a Barcelona football team picture on? Said, because I'm going to work for them one day. And I'm manifesting it. And they go, what? And so I was up with Houthi rehabbing his ankle, and then I got a text from Ada Gudjonsson at Barcelona saying, what are you up to? So he goes, do you fancy working for me at Barcelona? I was like, what? And I was standing outside in the garden. It was freezing up north in Middlesbrough, and he said, "Do you want to come live in Barcelona and be my assistant, like trainer?" And I was like, "Yeah." So then that brought me over, and I worked with him for 3 years, 3 seasons, and I was very fortunate to kind of be part of that team that won everything. 2006.
Everybody then. They had one of the best teams ever. Also.
Ronaldinho, who's lovely, one of my favorite players, would call me Robinho. Robinho. He was just great. Messi, you name it, Deco, Eto'o, Gudjonsson.
Was Julie there? Julie?
No.
The little winger, French guy.
No, I don't think so.
I was always a fan of that guy.
Yeah, he was amazing. And Busquets came in at the end of the player's sort of career, but he was just like Iniesta, Xavi. And so it was just amazing time. When you're in Barcelona, which I know very well now, but those players can't walk on the street. The level of we walked once on Passes de Gracia, and we had to run. Within 3 minutes, someone went, "Oh, it's Gudjonsson," and then other people started shouting, and they started running, and I was like, "Oh my God, it's not Beckham level," because I've heard. So the England players would tell me when they went and in Asia they couldn't. The bus would be stopped. There'd be 100,000 people there. So Barcelona, and then what I realized was that working in football or working for a footballer is never any time off. You're getting very good money, but if you work it out per hour and freedom, it's not what I wanted. So I then became. I started to work as a more consultancy, still working more with the physical, but then I realized that I had to choose. and the results I started getting with working with how I work now was just so overwhelming. I had to leave the physical stuff, and when I did that, I lost a lot of sort of relationships, friends, because they were like, "What's he's lost his mind." But when you know something, and you're, I suppose, a pioneer, you just got to walk your own path.
Yeah.
And so that's 12 years now.
Yeah.
That I've been doing what I do.
Yeah. Amazing. So that was the introduction. Yeah, no, that was amazing.
It's the coffee. It's making me talk. Yeah. It's got special coffee.
No, that's fantastic. Okay, so if I can fire these like 8 to 10 questions, if we can just kind of pick up and maybe just expand on it.
Yeah.
There's no real order in which this should go, but if I can just start with this one. Footballers' pure potential can be clouded by bad energy. And just, I think we did pick up on this, but I've written it down, so I'm just reading it out.
Sure.
But,
yeah, we can go into
but
that.
the bad energy, just like you said about the scales, how can we, so not just that, but maybe a little bit expand on why
that would have an effect.
Yeah.
Well, if we take your example of your hamstring, so you're in the change, from what I remember, you're in the change room before the game. You messaged me on WhatsApp.
Can I tell my side?
Oh, yeah, sure.
Okay, so I just came back from a 2-month injury with my pubis,
right?
And it's 4 months left of my contract. I'm already like 32. I'm thinking this is it. I got nothing else. Even the club is like, we're not going to re-sign you because you've only scored, was it like 3 goals in 5 games? We expect more from you, right? So, and I'm thinking 3 goals in 5 games, that's pretty good. But because I was injured with only an 8 months contract at the time. So anyway, this game means a lot to me, and they're pushing me to come back, and I'm still only 80%. And literally, I tweaked my hamstring in the warm up, and like I said, this game means a lot to me. So, and we already worked together quite a few times, so I was already really sold on the energy and everything that you do for me. So I was like, Rob, I just tweaked my hamstring
via WhatsApp.
Via WhatsApp.
And I was in Spain. You were in...
Just after the warm-up, we got 10 minutes until we get out on the pitch with the starting lineup. So I got literally 5 minutes. And I'm thinking, I'm only going to last 5-10 minutes of this game. I'm going to pull it. There's 100% I'm going to be injured. No more contract. Retirement right there. And so it was a do-or-die situation for me. So I was like, Rob,
no pressure.
I'm screwed. My hamstring is tweaked. I know I've done this 50,000 times. I know exactly how this feels. I got 5-10 minutes in this game. And then you were like, it's not physical. That was your first response.
Okay.
And it's not physical pain. I'm like, no, Rob, I don't know what you're talking about. It's a physical pain. I feel it on my hamstring. and then you did your thing. In the end, long story short, at the end of the game, I messaged you saying, I just scored 2 goals, got man of the match. And the agent's already calling me saying the club wants to renegotiate. And I played the full 90 minutes with a slightly tweaked hamstring.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, tweaked.
Yeah, but...
Yeah.
Yeah. And I remember your message, man of the match. I've got it. So I screenshotted it because it was... Yeah. So... And that was done by WhatsApp.
Yeah.
So what... I think I remember... So coming back to this idea of how can... bad energy, it's really how things weaken us or strengthen us. So what I look for is like, what's weakening you in this situation? And I think the manager, his sort of mental or fearful energy was weakening you. Then maybe there was some other stuff.
That makes sense because he was just a caretaker. Because
Right.
the previous coach just got fired. There's a lot of pressure on the club.
Right. And so if we go back to this idea that your body, mind, spirit or computer, you were picking up via your Wi-Fi on that weakening energy, and it triggered something in you. And there was some other, maybe I think the stadium could have weakened you, which is No one talks about that stuff.
You didn't say this before. You didn't tell me that.
Oh, okay, no.
Because now going back, I remember the coach sitting next to me when I'm messaging you.
Okay.
And he's like, you said, this could be my last game, is what he said to me.
That weakened you.
So,
right. So I didn't know.
So that was before warm up. I remember that. It's like, today means everything. I'm like, yeah, I know too, because I'm the foreign player. Pressure's on me.
Yeah. So he literally offloaded his worries onto you. So people got to realize that there's something there. When someone says words to you in your computer, that comes in and you hear it different ways.
Yeah.
So he could have said, this is my last game. That goes into your computer and it goes, last game. And then it triggers your...
so I started thinking it was my last game too.
Right. Fear, bladder. Yeah. Bladder, bladder meridians run down the hamstrings. And or into the knee, especially in the hamstrings. So
wait,
for me,
what was that?
No, I don't want to go too much into it. But different, the Chinese see that they talk about acupuncture is they mapped these energy lines in the body that are to do with certain emotions. So like liver is anger, kidneys fear, bladder can be, you pee yourself when you're scared. Yeah. And your knees tremble, buckle. So they've been doing that for thousands of years. So I study that. I don't always say it's right, but it gives me something to work with. So with you, I just went, okay, that's having effect on you, that's having effect on you. I don't think I even told you. I said, how is it now? I said, give me a baseline, stretch, go into it. And you went, I can feel it, Rob, when I do that. Yeah. You messaged. And so I went, okay, now how is it? And you went, oh, it's gone. Yeah. And then you played. Yeah. And then it was fine.
And it doesn't make sense because hamstring is like a rubber band. So if you take if you just cut a little bit of the rubber band, it's just ready to go.
But
so in my mind, I was thinking,
sure, but that's not.
No.
And we've got to understand that we're body, mind, spirit. Everyone understands body, mind, but all pain in your body is coming from your brain. Yeah, it's like a threat. So you perceived threat, and the brain sent the threat pain to ease you off to your hamstring, and I just cleared. I strengthened that. So Team Viewer, everything's like a web for me in internet.
So you strengthened it via WhatsApp. Yeah. In Spain, I was in Malaysia.
Yeah, and you played. Now someone go, oh, that's BS. Yeah. Okay. You were man of the match, scored 2 goals. Yeah. And Real Madrid would pay me a lot of money for that, Yeah.
But this is the thing where there's just thousands of stories like this. Wow. Yeah. With so many other footballers that you can talk about. Which I don't know if it's okay to share.
So one player, I'm not going to say his name just because this is a lot of people want me for confidentiality reasons. So he messaged me WhatsApp and said, Rob, my knees, I've had the operation, I'm trying to come back, but there's still pain and it's not going away. So he was kind of told that he would have to have surgery. It hasn't gone away, this pain, constant pain. And now the medical team has told him he will either have to have another operation or he's going to have to retire. Those were the options. And he said, so I said, do you want me to come over? He said, yes, please. So I flew over and stayed with him. And I remember arriving there and saying, let's just get started immediately. And it was a difficult moment for me because I hadn't really told, he was expecting me to go purely physical on him. I hadn't really told him that I do this other stuff. Yeah. And he told me where it hurt and when he was squatting and he could really feel the pain. And what I was doing was looking at it as an overall thing, physical or non-physical, or is it his body, is it his mind, or is it the internet connection? And what came up was when he said the medical team told me it would be sorted. So I picked up on some resentment there and anger with the medical team who told him. And so I told the player, I said, look, the number one thing affecting your knee is your anger. It's making you sore, that anger with the team. The moment I told him that was the truth, the pain was gone. And he squatted and he goes, what just happened? I said, you're holding on to the painful, there was a lot to do with it, like retirement, but it was anger at them and resentment. They said it would fix it and it's just made it worse.
Yeah.
So we cleared, anyway, I strengthened that and his knee was, within 10 minutes, was fine. And then the same day he's sprinting on a treadmill and we're doing like Olympic lifting and he was back. And he then went on to, in his league, to win the league. Yeah, and it's one of the top leagues. Yeah, and he got another contract worth.
We can say Premier League, right?
Yeah. And he went on to get, a substantial 3 more year contract and to fulfill, So there's so many things about that story is that could have finished him.
Yeah.
And it was non-physical. And so these things, if you imagine doing this for years, every day, seeing these types of things, and then you come up to someone and they have no idea what you do and they go, oh, that sounds like BS. It doesn't faze me anymore. Like I have so many experiences of helping people. So so a number of things is, firstly, his thinking about others was affecting his body. Then you could say, well, he trusts you, and so there's a placebo effect. It's a positive, and sure, I'm very open to it being everything, right? But then I have so many experiences of working. So the one that comes to mind was, there was this gentleman. He wasn't an athlete. A footballer, very famous footballer, paid for me to have a session with him on Skype. And this guy comes on and he was prickly, like he was a difficult character. So he was saying, do you want me to put my shorts and t-shirt on, like exercise? And I went, no, I'm just going to talk to you. And he went, his face, just his eyes was like that. Now I know this guy who's a good friend. I've known him for a number of years now, but he's an atheist and he is very opinionated. And anyone who says anything that's slightly woo-woo or religious, he's on Twitter like, you're full of it. Yeah. Like he's very, very opinionated. And anything to do with energy, he'd just be like, so he just sat there for the hour and I was sweating. It wasn't a nice experience. He wasn't allowing me to go on his computer really, but I was finding stuff and I was clearing it. So at the end of the session, he said, Rob, you're a lovely chap, lovely guy, but that was the biggest waste of one of my hours of my life I've ever had. That's what he told me. I was like, okay. So what I'm setting up here is he didn't believe in me at all. So a week or two later, the footballer, I spoke to him. He goes, how did it go with so-and-so? And that testimonial was on my site of this guy. Okay, so I'm just not saying his name. And the footballer said, how did it go? And I said, it was horrible. At the end of the session, he said that was the biggest waste of his time. And then he goes, that's weird because I saw him playing. So, excuse me, I hadn't set it up properly. So this guy came to me because he'd had 19 years back pain. He was known as the back pain guy, like literally crawling to the toilet. Like he'd had surgeries, like huge painkillers. There's periods of his life he doesn't remember, like 10 years because of the painkillers. So he was 19 years back pain and he was 10 out of 10 pain in his back on that call. So I was working on that. So the footballer said, oh, that's weird. 2 weeks later, I just saw him playing golf. I was like, what? And he goes, yeah, he's carrying his bag and he asked him, he said, how was it with Rob? And he goes, don't talk to me about that. And I was like, what? So I didn't speak to him, and then he contacted me 3 months later, and he goes, "You have effed me up. You've screwed me. Like my mind. I've been in a really difficult place because the next morning, for the first time in 19 years, I woke up with no back pain." And he said, "I did everything to get it back. I went and mowed the lawn, and it wouldn't come back. So he decided to drive 5 hours to the Isle of Man. I think it was. He said he went." Because that would screw his back up always. He drove there and it didn't. He couldn't. He was jumping up and down. He couldn't get his back pain back, and he said it threw him. He goes, because I had cleared it without touching him on Skype.
On Skype,
and this guy became my biggest business card. He told everyone. It just opened up a lot of doors for me. So fundamentally, my point is that I cleared his back pain, 19 years, and I've got a testimony of him saying, "Thank you. I don't know how you did it." And he called me spooky, weirdo. But he didn't believe in it. And so that was interesting for me because that kind of said, well...
So you don't need to believe in it?
No, of course not.
You don't need this trust? No.
And then I had another story, if I can explain this one quickly, is when my first daughter, Lima, was 1 year old, around that, I had someone... I don't know how they found out of me, but word of mouth, this lady contacted me and she said her daughter has been given, I think it was around 6 months to a year to live. And I went on the call and I wasn't thinking I could help. Okay, honestly, I was like, this is really this is serious. The baby, 1 year old, so it's the same age as Lima, and the baby was born with liver cirrhosis, scarring, very very bad scarring of the liver. She told me they needed to find a liver transplant of a 1 year old. Yeah, it's even a liver transplant probably might not survive it, or baby would die. And she held up the baby, and it was the baby was bloated. Her eyes, the whites were brown. You couldn't see her eyes, right? And she's swollen. And she said, please. And so it was difficult for me as a father, because So I said to her, look, I will do everything I can. I don't know if what I do will do anything, but like I said, I'll give it a go. And she said, oh, please, thank you. And so I worked on the baby, through the mother. So I worked on all her fears, worries, and sometimes it was the baby computer. Sometimes it was a mother computer, sometimes it was a father computer, or sometimes it was the baby picking up on other stuff. I just tried with this coding system, and I cleared everything. And after the first session, there's slight improvement. And then every month I would work, and to cut a long story short, a year later, the doctor said, we're going to have to discharge her from our care. We don't know what's happened, but all the numbers are fine. The liver's fine. There's no cirrhosis. The baby's 100% normal. And the mother, because I worked with her during that time, we were seeing everything come down. The doctors were redoing the test because they couldn't believe it. And so the doctors used the word miracle. And that family think, I spoke to her this morning, they think I'm some sort of
guru.
But that I've always said, no, everyone can do this. I mean, some people are more, you don't get like let's say a hedge fund owner who's really aggressive and not into emotions. He probably won't do what I do. Right? Just like everyone can play football, not everyone can play Premier League. Okay. And so the things that I take from that experience, apart from being able to, help that baby who is now 4, and is fine. What was interesting, the medical establishment used the word miracle. Now, miracle was used, if I sent my MacBook, if you went back 1,000 years or 100 years and said, I can send my email or I can speak on a phone with a person, they would go, that's a miracle. So miracles are just things that happen very quickly that, it's kind of magic, but it's just tech hasn't devised a way to do it.
Mm.
So,
but for people to understand, like just from a real basic level of like strengthening, or even just like the first signs of what you're talking about, like that gut feeling or your explanation of that.
Okay, I'm very perceptive. I've always been. It's just my personality type. You're very perceptive, and some people are not. When I was a kid, like when I was 8, I was sitting in Kenya on the floor, assembly, and the teachers are talking, and the vice headmaster, or the whatever they call that, the assistant headmaster, stands up. She's an American lady, and she starts talking, and I'm like, she's pregnant, and there's no information. Like, I think she's pregnant for some reason.
You just said this when you were 8 years old.
When I was 8 years old, in my head, I said she's pregnant, and then I got in the car and I said, I think the assistant headmistress is pregnant, and she goes, why? And I said, I don't know, but I got that feeling.
Yeah.
And my mum said, that's so weird.
Yeah.
I got that a lot, and it really bothered me. You're weird. I got it. Yeah, but you're just weird. And then 3 months later, the headmistress stood up and said, I'd like to tell everyone I've got some great news. I'm pregnant. And I went, what just happened? Like, at 8, you just go, that doesn't fit. There was no Google or anything so I just thought, I didn't think I was special or anything. I just thought I was weird.
Yeah.
And so I could name quite a lot of experiences like this. Like, I was in a car with my family every day. We drop my brother and sister off in Kenya. Then we drive into Nairobi with me and my stepfather, and he dropped me off at the primary school. So every day, like clockwork, I go into the front, read the newspaper to my stepfather. We do the crossword. It was structured. Then this one day, they get out. I have a bit of stuff with me, and my sister puts her head back in. You're not coming into the front? And I went, no, for some reason. And so they closed the doors. I clearly remember this. Drove 3 minutes down the road, picked up 60 miles an hour. We had my stepfather had a nice little fast car. We're going, and the car pulls up in front of us. We hit it. I go through because I'm sitting in the back, in the middle. I go through, hit the windscreen, knees on the ashtray, the dashboard, and right the car
through the window.
No, it didn't go through the window, but my head hit the window from the back, and my stepfather and put his arm there and locked in. No seatbelts in Kenya at that time. And the car was written off, and the front area, I would have been dead.
Wow. And
so I was like, "What? Why did I choose not to go? I don't know." So there's I was jogging in Barcelona one day, and then like 200-300 yards ahead, I see a guy with a dog walking by him, and there's it's right near where I am now. There's this bit that you can go there, and then there's like a park in between. Yeah. So I'm like, go left. There was no information about any threat there, but I see them, and something in my head goes, go left. So I start jogging left, and as I'm sort of 30 seconds down there, the dog goes for me and goes across the grass to attack me. And so why did I pick up on that? And so these type of things just make me realize that we don't know everything. Yeah. I'm not saying that I'm special. I just think everyone probably has these
quick intuition.
And so intuition for me is just information that is out there, but most people are too busy and distracted to perceive it. And that some people, I spend a lot of time doing meditating, calming my internal, I like to call it like a bowl of water. So let's say my internal bowl of water is very, very still. One little drop, and I feel it, right? You boom, and it goes. So let's say that I picked up on a bit of information, and my internal environment, internet, physical intelligence, picked up on it. But let's say you're choppy and you're distracted and stressed and lots of weaknesses, and you drop one drop of water, you won't feel it, will you?
No.
So people even say, there's no way you can feel one drop of water. Well, you can if your water's flat. Yeah. So coming back to, the footballer with his knee, he didn't know what I was doing, but then the baby couldn't speak and wasn't listening to me. I was working through the mother. And then that other client with a severe back pain who didn't want to talk to me, who did it out of desperation and because the other guy paid for it. He wouldn't have spoken to me otherwise. And it really fundamentally changed him. And I went on to work with members of his family, and it took me to Asia, and in Asia they're much more open to this type of thing. So, I sometimes get called in to consult on deals, because everything has an energy.
So it's your call then whether this is a good deal or a bad deal.
It's not so much, although I know people who do that in American football.
Yeah.
They have skills for that. For me, it's just about finding where the weakness is. So let's say there's a deal between two companies. I'll look at the key players in the room and see if there's any weak energy between the people, like personally, and then I'll be working on that. So I wouldn't go, buy 100 million of this. I don't have that skill set. But what I can do is I have one client who owns a hedge fund, and I'm just working on optimizing his computer. So that for anyone watching, you'll know that if you don't look after your phone or computer, it starts to slow down. What I mean by that is if you don't empty your emails after a while, or you're just downloading loads of videos and photos, and you've got your trash, and you never close your web browsers, it's going to slow down and it starts to hang. So hanging is stress and anxiety. If it goes too much, you're going to get disease. You're going to get sick. So people say, yes, stress kills. The hanging is because your computer's overloaded. So what you can do as individuals is learn how to do that for yourself. And that's what I teach. Or people...
To empty the trash.
To close the web browsers, to close the pop-ups. So, with the coach, when he put his arm around you, he kind of put malware onto your computer. So all I did was remove it. But no one knows how to connect with their own internal operating system. And no one knows how to clear their own trash. So everyone at home, just imagine if you didn't know how to clear your own computer, it would become unmanageable after a while. And that is, the elite players, they have a lot of their frameworks of seeing life is, failure is not a problem. They learn from things. There are certain mental models that their software runs that are different to the normal person. Those can be improved. But let's say one of the how would I say, most mentally strong players I ever knew was, I'm not going to say his name because I worked closely with him, but he was captain, one of the best. And he could have everything going on outside, like scandals, massive issues in the press and everything. And when it came to play, it was gone. He could shut it all off. Now, that way he shut it off is great, but it comes with a downside. So it's like you go, you know what? I'm going to put all those issues and problems, weakness, into somewhere on my computer, and I play. It's like this certain place, like Dropbox almost on you. But after a while, that's like a bank account. And if he doesn't empty it, it's going to burn him or make him sick or affect his cognitive ability.
So it's like suppressing.
That's my ability. It is suppressing, shutting down.
It's just not
numbing.
healthy.
It is good. Like if you're, let's say, numbing. Let's say we're in war, or let's say you're playing a game of football and you come in at half time and you took a knock to your thigh and you put ice on. The ice enables you probably to play the rest of the game, decreases swelling, yeah? But what if you leave that ice on for 24 hours or a week? It's going to burn you.
Still as ice. Without melting.
Without melting. If you keep numbing it, you'll burn your leg. It will literally kill the muscle. So it's good and bad. Taoist principles. Everything has an opposing. So things are good and bad. There's all in the mind. There's all this duality. It's yin yang. So not going into sexuality or anything, but men are usually more masculine than feminine. Women are more feminine than masculine. But there are some, say, women fighters who are more masculine than some men. So it's just a balance. Hot and cold. You don't know if something's cold if you don't know what hot is. You know, these are just opposites. So,
Okay. So this is huge. Oh well, that was question one.
Okay, I'll start going through the quick.
No, but I think explanation of energy and how it can affect us or the world. I mean, we've picked up on that. Fitness times energetics, where this is in the world, we kind of picked up on that, saying it doesn't exist. It's still a new practice. Many don't understand it, so we've done that. Meditation benefits and quieting the mind. I think that's a good one.
Okay.
So I'm going to repeat that question. Meditation benefits and quieting the mind. What can we... So this is how... Because for immediately, of course, I think you should talk to Rob if you're seeing this video. But there's exercises that you can do, and obviously learning from this video and trying to implement this into your own football, basically. So how can we... is there a way to do that without talking to you or understanding a little bit of how this works? So it has an immediate impact on... So like you said, people don't know how to clear the trash or close those browsers. But how can we kind of...
help others
show a little?
So meditation. Meditation is where you're just fully present. There's no mind. So some people go, "Oh, I'm really spiritual. I do meditation." For me, meditation is just I can do it walking. I can do sitting. Or when I'm with my girls, it's where there's no mind. So let's say the classic example is sitting down, like a sitting meditation. So there are different schools, there's lots of fancy BS, but fundamentally what you do is you just be quiet, and then you're going to have thoughts that come up. Some people, it's within a second, and they start thinking about it, and they get caught up in a story. So for example, let's say I'm sitting here, and then I start thinking, what am I going to do with
groceries?
Or that person, I've got to speak to them. And you kind of get caught up in this story. So some people call it almost like clouds come in, and you go with the cloud. So or balloons. So if we use, let's use a juggling analogy. So you got all these thoughts going. Most people like just constantly thinking about stuff. It never stops. But with meditation, you just focus on your breathing. So breathing in through the nose, breathing out through the nose, and you focus on that. And then your thought will come in, and you'll start thinking about it, and then you go, "Oh no," come back to the nose, and just let it go. This is very simple, classic meditation. You don't attach. So in not attaching, what you are becoming aware is that your mind is just like this computer throwing up thoughts constantly, and most people are catching them. So if you just become aware, like juggling, you're not doing this, you just juggling, and you're focused. If you're juggling and you're doing that, you're going to drop all the balls. Okay, so you're learning how to detach from your thoughts. So fundamentally, what you're trying to do is understand that you're not your mind, and who's looking at the thoughts. So we're getting into deeper stuff here. Anyway, just being quiet. The importance of flow state or being present is when you're in that state, there's no mind and you're optimal, both mentally, physically, and spiritually. Yeah. And when everyone knows that when they're not thinking about something, they just do it, and you're like, how did I do that? And you can never do it again because your mind's thinking. Or if you're playing tennis with someone and they're in the zone and they're just bam, bam, what I can do is say, wow, your forehand is so smooth. What I'm doing is I'm getting their mind to think about their forehand, instantly screws up their game. That's warfare. People got to understand that there are people who are very good at that. Yeah. So I work with some athletes on countering that, how to counter psychological warfare. I had a pole vaulter who, when she would go, people would come up to her and go, "You're not going to make that." Like competitors, I'm like, what? But it's brutal. Like, or are you doing so well? It's just constant. All these girls just having, and so what I taught her to do was to connect with her flow state, delete, get the mind out there, and anything that was said, she could in real time work out if it was having an effect on her and remove it. So it was amazing. She's really good at that now.
So for football, I think I can totally relate, because the amount of crap that you say to each other with the opposing team. Yeah. Saying, say if you shanked a shot, he's like, you're never going to score. Or like, oh, that was really good.
Yeah, which is
say a positive or a negative.
Sure.
Either way is going into your system.
And it's connecting with your mind.
Yeah.
The people overemphasize the mind. It really limits us. Yeah. So you said earlier about Zidane.
Yeah.
Saying what was the
Zidane? I remember reading his biography. He was just always talking about whatever you do in training. This is when you think and you want to try and analyze yourself, etc. But when it's game, you just don't think. Just trust that it's all in your system. Yeah. Which is, I think, was one of the best advice.
And I read. Unbelievable.
Then.
Like World Cup final, he does that. Think
like all the skills that he's done, he's never thinking of doing it. Right. Well, like I think any successful player.
So it's creativity and instinctive wording. So that's coming from no mind. So people got to understand what. But you need to be mentally present. No, what you do is you need your physical intelligence to take over, and you don't want any influence coming in via the internet, or you don't want your software mind running, oh, that's good, that's bad, you should have done that, mind's just constantly going, you should have done better, you should do more.
So how do we
so what I've done meditation for a long time, or Tai Chi, Qigong, and all these different things. For me, this idea that something comes up and then you're just aware of it and you don't connect, that's a good skill to learn. But that was developed a couple of thousand years ago by Buddhist monks in a cave. They didn't have an iPad, they didn't have a Mac, they didn't have a computer. So they didn't know how to delete things, and they didn't know how to send things instantly, and everything's now instant. As within, as without, or as above, as below, everything is reflected. So we have this external tech right now that's incredible, right? Spaceships coming back to Earth, Elon. Your iPad's just absolutely incredible piece of tech. And then inside, we're going, go back 2,000 years. Those guys knew what was going on. So people are using 2,000-year-old tech. And so I never believed, that was always like, there's something not right there. Everything else is getting better, except our ability to deal with the mind, not taking loads of drugs. So what I understood, as I've explained with this 1 and zeros, is we have internal tech. We have an internal operating system. So I've done some audios where if you listen to them, it'll send your mind out of your body.
And all you got to do is just listen to that audio.
Yeah. Now, when you get good at it, when you know the words and if you know, understand the principles of strengthening yourself. So the midline of the body is your computer system.
Spinal cord.
Spinal cord. The midline is the line that separates the left and right from the body, which is why Shaolin Kung Fu masters, when they're balancing, they put their hand there. Yeah, or people do that. That's the strongest energy. So if you're sprinting, you want to connect with that energy and you go faster. Okay, or the spinal cord. So that's like the enter button into your computer. So if you say, send my mind out of my body, or you say something like, which I've done in the audio, is like, I play well today, I don't play well. I play badly, I don't play badly, neutral. Bang. So I've done that very quickly. The mind is thinking, I want to play well, I hope I don't not play well, what if I play badly, you know, those type of thoughts. They weaken you, yeah? And they affect your game. So
whether you're thinking, I want to play well, or whether you're thinking,
I don't want to play
badly.
Yeah,
either way,
it's your mind's connected to it, and your physical intelligence, which is ridiculous, computer, to think that we know what's going on with these, 50 billion cells, and they're all communicating, and everything knows what it's doing. To think that our mind can get involved in that is ridiculous. Yeah, it's just really, and doctors think then, oh, okay, take this pill. And then what happens? The body has it balances out and there's another problem. It's just a cybernetic organism. It's just incredible complexity. There's no way we can really understand it. And you add in this things coming from outside, it just becomes almost like another level, right? I've lost my train of thought now. Yeah, it's my mind. Okay, yeah. So we come back to this good and bad, right? And so what I'm saying is, you learn to program your mind. So that forms a pentagon. Please don't think that's anything to do with like weird stuff on the walls. So it's just a 5-sided energy figure. So play well, don't play well. It's 2 options. Play badly, don't play badly. And neutral, it means that you're balanced between the 2 and there's no drop on any of them. So what you're doing is you want to be strong to playing well, not playing well, playing badly, not playing badly, neutral. Then you can touch, or you think in your head up the spinal cord, and that is the enter button into your computer. You do that, just try it.
So I do the bang, like you always said.
Okay.
I go bang, I think of white light going up my spinal cord.
Okay, that's how you do it. Other people, like maybe if you're in the change room and you're going, everyone's going to be like, maybe not have him in the team. But no, that's a joke. So you don't have to do that. You can imagine. And I've been playing.
Staying neutral is where we want to be.
That is what the best connect to. Zidane is neutral, like no mind, neutral is
no emotion.
It's just total physical intelligence. And everyone will have a story where I remember once I was at uni and we were playing touch rugby and it just started and someone threw me the ball and I went, and everyone went, whoa, shit, Rob, you're amazing. And then I thought, oh, how did I do that? I didn't know how I did it. And then I started thinking about it and I never did it.
Never happened again. Yeah. I think a lot of kids have asked me that question too. Like, there would be some amazing moments. Like, even myself, I would have some amazing moments. And of course, you think, I want to relive that moment. That's why you do all the trainings, to enjoy that few seconds.
Yeah.
So how do you get back into that moment?
That's the gold.
Yeah.
So there's an old Zen saying, when there's a flowing river and you go to catch the flowing water, it goes still. You can't catch the flowing water.
Oh, wow.
Right? You can't. It's just flowing. So you can't force it. You can't use your mind to do that. And that's why I've spent my life trying to understand that. So coming back to high performance is no mind. Yeah? Not thinking.
Neutral.
So how do we get that? Well, I've got an audio that does that for you.
Yeah.
Okay, you just listen to it, you'll be putting that. That's not to say that you're on the pitch and your mum or your dad shouts, Timmy, come on, you know, that was really embarrassing. Let's say that happened. Sorry.
Or look alive.
Yeah.
Have more energy.
Yeah. That's going to trigger the mind. But also what you're going to find is the parent's weakness.
Yeah.
And you remember with and so that's why everyone's interconnected. You can have a player on the team that could connect with, trigger you, or it's just, these are the principles of neutrality. Yeah. And then you've got to start to realize that you have a lot of software programs from your parents or your family, your culture, that are running on your computer that are actually slowing down and hampering your physical intelligence.
Yeah.
And the best in the world can remove that effect when they play.
Yeah.
And be neutral.
Yeah.
And if you look at Messi, he's kind of like, it doesn't look like there's much going on.
No.
Even when he scores, he's kind of, sometimes, against Real Madrid, I've been there for the Clásico, and there's a lot of energy, and he's,
he starts to get angry.
And that will affect, someone might argue with me and say, you need emotions. Yeah, we've talked many times about that. If someone walked in here and attacked me with a knife, I would be scared, and that would trigger anger to fight, or I would freeze, or I'd run. But if I fight, my anger is going to come out, and that anger is going to give me a lot of energy. Okay. However, if you're at if you want to get high level, let's say MMA, UFC, what do you think Conor McGregor does to his opponents? He tries to make them emotional. Do you think he's doing that to make them stronger? No, he's weakening them. He's looking for chinks in their armor where he can trigger a weakness. And he's the best at it. Except when he fought Khabib. Khabib controlled his mind. And you saw it come out at the end. Like, he couldn't hold in the anger, and he jumped over the cage and into the crowd, and it was a mass brawl. But in the fight, he was cool. So the fighter who's the calmest, no mind, will win, or is much more likely to win in any sport. If you're in an argument, let's say negotiation, and one person's no emotions, they're going to win. Yeah. So these coaches who go, come on, I remember talking with Nigel Spackman when he was at Liverpool, and actually it was when he was at Rangers, and he was playing Celtic, and there a lot of the Scottish footballers were like, we're playing Celtic, and like you're getting wound up, and he's just sitting there going, you're just going to burn through your energy, just calm. But Nigel's a very smart guy, and some people are very tribal, and they get, and so I thought that was.
So are we saying like a team huddle when everyone's like, "Come on, rah, 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 1, 2, 3," kind of thing? Is that good?
It can galvanize the energy of the team, and really wanting something and driven. This is where you could say. You're all working towards an outcome. It doesn't mean you need to be angry or, certain emotions. You want to be focused and driven. Yeah, that's not so emotional.
No. I think one.
There's a difference between like steely-eyed and like this is what's going to happen. So you're mentally like, let's say a football team's playing and the goal goes in. So a lot of players' heads will go boom and they'll collapse. You can see it internally. Testosterone drops in players who lose. Testosterone increases in the winning team. Yeah. So the heads drop. But good teams, there's no emotion. They frame it. They say it's one goal, or they go in at halftime 2-0 down. Well, let's say, and they say new half. Forget that. No emotions. It's just, we do what we do. Play, technique, skill. Yeah, physical intelligence.
So while you're playing, no emotions.
No
After,
emotion.
have all the emotions you want.
Sure.
Yeah.
And then, with this type of work, you're going to be less excited, excitable. So
yeah, but when you take the great players like tennis, football, whatever, they're always so emotionless.
Yes.
And just centered.
Yeah. And sometimes, like Bjorn Borg, I'm going back.
Way back.
But he was no emotions.
No.
He actually got depression from external stuff, and that might be because he could suppress his emotions. But I told you, long term, that has an effect.
Yeah.
It slows everything down. But the top guys, when they win, they are of course happy because they've reached their goal. Like Ngannou won the UFC the other day, is heavyweight, and he'd lost to the guy before, and he won. But you just saw him; he was like, "Yes, I know this is what I've worked towards." So he's not jumping up and down, and he's just relieved and like happy. He set his goal, but before the fight, he was both of them were just there was no emotion. This is elite level stuff.
Yeah,
and the guy with everything, the guy who talks too much and is like, I'm going to be the best in the world and that's like a hollow train makes the most noise.
the hollow train makes the most noise.
The hollow carriage makes the most noise, unless you're Conor McGregor, although he's not so good.
So you want to be empty, basically.
Exactly, which is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So
a good example, is when you miss a chance.
Yes.
I think a lot of guys, especially in football, would scream. Just say the F word.
Yes.
And I remember I used to be that guy until obviously when I met you, but also another coach in Australia said, don't like for me the best example is Ronaldinho. He smiles after every mistake. He smiles. I don't know if that's just his shape of his face, or he's literally telling himself it's not a problem. Next.
Yeah.
And that has a quicker effect for the next action rather than screaming. Fuck.
Yeah, that's where your frames, the software programs, you want. So with my daughter, with my 4-year-old, we talk about mistakes. Mistakes are amazing. That's how we learn. So anyone who goes like that was bad. No, it's like we talk. Oh, did you do any mistakes today? And I'll say, oh my God, I did this mistake, but what I learned from that is this. So what I'm framing with her is mistakes are essential.
Yeah.
Person who never makes mistakes never goes anywhere.
Yeah.
Okay. So a lot of if we look at a striker and they miss, a lot of the times a striker will do external expression so everyone knows that they're unhappy. So you've seen it. Someone misses and then they go, oh no, and they want all the fans to know that they're really sorry, and the manager, and they look around even. What if the player just misses and shows no emotion? Yeah. People in the crowd might say, oh, focus. He doesn't care.
Yeah. Well, focus more.
More. You don't really care enough. So there's more play if we really go into it than just an internal thing. There's also expectations, external, but when you can't have 100% strike rate. Messi does, no one does, right? So as long as you are doing putting in the focus and effort to get better, and you're doing everything you can. You need to work hard, right? You can't sit on the couch and then just strengthen yourself, score loads of goals, and then expect it to happen. You have to earn it. That's where mental toughness and discipline, which you're so good at, comes in. You have to practice. It's a computer memorization. It's just central nervous system. And then we also need to train that closed loop. Like you take a shot in training. You need to be putting in the practice of how you react if you miss. And I think, Messi or Ronaldo, some of the greats at doing that. If you put in the time, that's great. If you're worried about what the fans think, there's a weakness.
Yeah.
You're weak to your reputation or
Being
judged.
Yeah.
And that is where you need to look at the software that's glitchy. Ronaldo will take a shot, and if everyone's shouting at him, he doesn't care.
Yeah. Plus, he's scored 1,000 something goals. He's the top scorer in the last 10, 15 years.
Sure.
But if you look at the amount of shots he's also taken, there's far more he's missed than he's scored.
Yeah, and so his ability to do that and not be affected is probably the thing that makes a difference for him.
Yeah.
Whereas I remember when I was at Chelsea, we had in training, we had two players at the same time. Adrian Mutu, who was at the time was a bit of a mess.
Yeah.
Lots of off-pitch things affecting him on pitch. Terrible at training. Like, I probably score more goals than him in training. And then you put him on the pitch, bang, top corner.
Yeah.
So there's something he performed at the highest level. Kesman, who was at
French guy, no?
No, he was Dutch, Serbian,
Kesman,
but played with Arjen Robben, Batman and Robin.
Yeah.
He in training was like bang, bang, like everyone was like, all the pros were like, yes, we've got absolute crack.
Yeah.
Top corner, never miss. Game.
No score, yeah.
And you start to look. He was quite emotional person.
Yeah.
I had a run-in with him.
So what is it for players who are practice players? Because every team has so many guys that are practice players.
Yes.
Cannot perform in the game.
Yeah, it's gonna come down to they want to.
Do we have a audio for that?
So we have one that is like a minute. I'm going to keep it really short.
Yeah.
Just before the game, put them in a mindless state.
Yeah.
No mind, neutral state.
Yeah.
Flow. I've got one where it just balances out your whole body. It just optimizes your physical intelligence, and that has a compounding effect.
Yeah.
So everything needs to be even, balanced, connected inside your body, and it improves your physical intelligence. And then the other one is game prep. So it's looking at team manager, stadium fans, all those relationships, and then also you play well, you don't. Strength, like making sure that your focus, determination, creativity, agility, your external fitness, internal fitness are all optimal for the game. But coming back to your point, like if someone's really hung up on being great, it's usually an ego thing. They want people to. So in practice, everyone's like, wow, you're so talented, you're so good. The problem with that is it's very fixed. So fixed and growth mindset, this is where we're getting into a whole other thing. But just quickly is, if when you're a kid, everyone goes, wow, he's so talented. And he's so like this, he's so like that. What happens is when they make a mistake, they then take it as they are the opposite. Useless, embarrassing. And so they get fixed. And they've done studies that showed that when you tell kids they're talented, it completely ruins them. The kids that see it as a challenge and that mistakes are good, and it's nothing to do with who they are. It's just their ability, their ability and hard work and training. They thrive. The kids who are told they're talented, and everyone is telling their kids this.
Yeah.
That then they can't make a mistake because their whole identity is tied with being talented, and that just fixes them. It doesn't enable them to grow. So when I work with a striker, I've worked with a striker who's like, I want to play for Real Madrid, right? And then you go, why? Well, there you start going, why? And okay, having a dream, but if you need it, you need people to go, wow, he's so good. That's coming from a weakness. It's the person who doesn't care, who's internally driven. And they're like, I've set this goal. I'm going to do everything I can to get there. It's not about what other people think or the crowd or anything. That's Ronaldo and Messi. And the greats. They're all internally driven, their growth mindset. Give me a challenge. But you're saying practice players, they're great in practice, but when they're challenged in games, their whole identity's on the card, and it's too much pressure.
Yeah, there's a couple of young players I really want to help, and their problem is this: they cannot play in the game.
It'll be coming down to kind of fixed mindset based on the limitations of their ego. And in the UK, because I know the UK, everyone's like, "Oh, you're such a good girl. You're such a good boy. Oh, you're so clever. You're so intelligent. You're so talented." It's ruining kids. It's so difficult to stop. I always thought that way. I say it to my daughter sometimes, and my wife goes, "That's fixed mindset." I'm like, "Oh." Yeah. So it's all about so it's really, people can, if you think you have that, you need to start becoming aware of that, that internal dialogue, and, changing that. Or if someone wanted to speak to me and get it cleared, then they can do that.
Because I think, of course, this is mainly for the young players, but this is also for example, the parents with the young player.
Absolutely.
So, of course, we're talking about peak performance, but this also can relate to the parent.
I've got a story recently of, I'm not going to say the sport because the family probably know that I was talking about them, well, even though they probably never see this.
Yeah.
But I had a young athlete who was not international, but promise in their sport. The parents contacted me because the coach was saying that the kid wasn't aggressive enough. Okay, and didn't seem to really want it. So I started I spoke with the kid, 15, 16, and started to find where the weakness was, and there was a lot in the parents. And the parents desperately want to do everything for their kids, but there's the opposite that can happen. If I said to the parents, if you were being negative and holding your kid back, would that bother you? They'd be like, I never do that. And they wouldn't. But the problem is they're humans, and them wanting the kids to do well is usually coming from their own, maybe they didn't do so well. It's just very nuanced. So what we did, we started removing that. Then I started to work with the kid on so the coach thinks you're not aggressive enough, and started working on a few things. After the second session with them, the coach, the kid came out of the pool, and the coach said, "Wow, you were super aggressive. It's a personal best." And then the kid told me, it's like, I just beat all my personal bests, and it didn't feel difficult. So this kid's gone from...
So was the kid more aggressive? Or did she feel more aggressive?
Well, what was happening was, in this sport, towards the end of the race, others were coming back at them and couldn't hold them off, and said it was easy. And Blue, just totally destroyed all her personal best.
Yeah.
And it was working on removing weaknesses. And there was also, it's just removing things that are affecting her.
Yeah.
It wasn't really adding anymore. And it just makes me think how many young athletes have everything, but they have too many things detracting from that, and it's going to be that.
Yeah.
Because I've seen so many kids in football. I remember one of the kids that really impressed me the most when I first saw them was I was at Chelsea, and one of the physios said, "Can you take this young kid in and do an assessment of him?" I was like, "Yeah, sure." And he was a young French kid, 17, 18. It was Lassana Diarra, who played for Chelsea and then went to Real Madrid. So a pretty decent career. Yeah, he was small. I started talking to him because loads of kids came into Chelsea, thousands, and 1 in 10,000 would be good enough.
To stay at Chelsea. To stay at Chelsea,
yeah. And it was just very rare I ever saw any kid come in. I've never seen it, really. And this kid came in, I speak French, so I spoke with him in French, and I was like, holy shit. He was like, I said, "Oh, how's it going?" He goes, he didn't say I'm here to succeed, but he was like, "Yeah, I'm not here to play around." And I was like, damn, this kid's a man. Like, he wasn't a kid, and all the other kids were kids.
Yeah.
And he went into training, and I was like interested, and he kicking players. He's a little guy. He was smashing people, and everyone came off the pitch, and they went up to Mourinho, and I think it was like Didier Drogba and Makelele said, "Sign him."
Yeah.
And he was signed.
And he was, in your perspective, was just completely like a centered kind of...
Yeah, emotionless. Knew what he wanted.
Emotionless.
Yeah. He wasn't going, "Oh, I'm so excited, I'm at Chelsea." That's it. Like, when you see someone come in and they're not excited and they're just, I'm here to do my job. If someone comes on a call with me and they're excited about working with me, I work on that immediately. Because if they're excited, the opposite exists, which is that they would be very, very sad. The opposite.
Yeah.
So I'm like, there's always the opposite in the mind.
Yeah.
But if someone comes on and they're just like open, and that's the same with athletes. You see it. The top athletes don't. They're just, they might enjoy themselves, they enjoy their environment.
Yeah. But there's a time and a place.
There's a time and a place.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's the same with traders or any person I work with. If a trade is emotional, they'll lose all their money. You just golfers, any sport is to do with the mind. No mind.
And that's the biggest difference between
100%
success and
And then, you could get into looking at if someone's watching this and they're not training constantly, then they don't want it.
No.
It's like, okay, then if you deserve it.
Yeah. Well, that's why this app is for the only ambitious.
And which is why we're doing this, right?
But we also talked about that, how only ambitious is wanting too much. That you also have to be neutral.
Yeah.
And I can't call it only the neutral.
No, because people wouldn't get it.
No.
But that's an interesting one. Ambitious is setting your targets high.
Yeah.
It's not getting it. It's just when I see young entrepreneurs, young guys starting a business, they're all excited, and then they could just get like challenges, and then after a while they just lose that excitement, and everything, and it's just like the ones who can survive and keep going. So ambitious is only the ones that said, "Well, I want to be the best I can in the sport, not because I'm doing it for anyone else." That's when they're all. I've been in lower league clubs where the guys go out at night and they're like, I've seen the top guys there, and give it all of that. Billionaires not wearing Gucci and showing their status. This is it, status. The top guys are very Iniesta, Xavi, Messi. They go in there quiet. They don't need to show anything, do they?
No.
So the guys that show the most, they're looking for the most status, is because they need it. Hollow trains.
Yeah.
Ambitious is a solid word.
Yeah. But this is also to be that extra ambitious is also to throw away that ambition. We also talked about how not throw away, but that's what gets you neutral. That's like the next level.
That
of
is,
ambition.
this is where this is next level. Yeah. So when you're ambitious, let's say I'm working with a young player and he says, I want to play for England one day. Okay, cool. So what if you don't? What if you fail at that? And he go, I'll be devastated. So most people would think, well, he needs that to drive him. No. This is next level. That devastation energy will attract that. Where the energy is, it attracts it. That's why you don't want... So if he makes it, he'll be up here. If he doesn't, he's down here. He's jammed up. What he needs to be is... It's counterintuitive because everyone's going, I don't understand. It's because you're using your mind. He needs to be neutral to making it or not. To failing or succeeding. So when you're there, there's no mind. So that might drive you for a certain amount of time, but they'll end up screwing. It'll end up... I've seen it thousands of times.
In so many situations. I've experienced that with Rob. I think there's so many players who, like, I want to score, can't score, or I need a new club, you know, and then when you're neutral, that's when things happen.
Yeah, Zidane, so intuition comes, or answers come when there's no mind. And everyone will know, if you're in the shower or you're just lazing, an idea will come. Where did it come from? Who thought it? Like, I have all my best ideas. I take time out where I go and walk and I empty my mind. And I'm just like, it's like fishing. I call it fishing. I just put my rod in. I'm not trying to get anything. I'm just like, or throw the pebble out, wait for the ripple to come back. Throw it in the pond and the ripple will come back. But if I try and make it come back, I lose the ripple. It's no mind. And so you have to... so when I'm in the shower, I go, oh, that's a great idea, and I write it down. Last night I was going to bed, I was lying there, and and I was like, where's my phone? Yeah. And then I wrote it and I tweeted it this morning, actually.
Wow.
So when you're on the pitch and there's no mind, you can, like Zidane is the perfect example of balance. Yeah. He can go that way, he can go that way. Yeah. Whatever anyone's thinking he's going to do, he just adapts. And it's almost like he's not thinking about it. His body goes, he's doing like this. Everyone's like Messi.
But I think any 8 or 10 year or any young player they know that moment. Now we're just kind of explaining, well, this is how you get more of that.
Yes.
Because I think any player will remember, I played so good that game. And if you really, truly be in that moment, you were not thinking. Everything was just flowing. Yeah. You're in the zone. Everything's just clicking.
Yeah. And whatever your age is, I look at you I'm not calling you an adult, but as a human. You have a mind, you have to deal with it. You start now or you start later. Yeah. You start when you're 40, you start when you're 10, 8. If I work with a 5-year-old, it's going to be more difficult because their emotional brain is still developing. But I still respect them and don't tell them. So then we get into parenting.
There's also two different... When we keep talking about the mind, there's the smart people who are always analyzing their mind and thinking, psychologically, this is because I'm a human, or emotionally, this is what I'm thinking. So they read so many more books. Yeah. And they go down, I guess, this rabbit hole of just the mind. A different kind of mindset. Yes. Whereas we're talking about energy mindset.
Right. And it's removing, it's de-engineering. So the other way is more engineering. You like building this construct in your head. Next level, Shaolin, Buddhist monks, elite athletes deconstruct. There's no mind.
Yeah.
And that's
the real message here.
Yeah, and it's not, there's no beliefs or anything. You got to try it, and whatever works. So I work with a lot of engineers, or I've worked with people much more clever than I am mentally, and they have no idea what's going on. Like they can build a huge business, or design a rocket or whatever, but when it comes to their internal environment, they're like they have no idea how to connect with their internal operating system. So the reason why I call my course Meditation OS, operating system, is because I teach people that everyone has an operating system, everyone's the same, everyone's equal, decentralized, like everyone's connected. You don't need to go to a church or anything, it's just inside of you. When you're in the changing room before a game, and on the pitch, that internal dialogue is it, if it's there, you need to master it. If it's not there, you're going to play your best game.
Yeah. Boom. I think we've covered everything. Why does some physical pain move? Oh, okay, this is another one. Physical pain.
Okay.
So why does the physical pain move around the body? Scientists and doctors would claim, actually, do they even claim that pain move around, or they accept the fact that pain does move around?
Well, if I think you're talking about when pain's moving around is, let's say I work on you.
Or like, for example, my friends always complain about the back.
Okay.
And then I try to do the little that I know that you've taught me,
Sure.
and the pain moves.
Right. Okay, I understand.
Yeah.
So number one, you're better than you're saying. You're being very humble. And the next is, what's interesting, it doesn't move. It can move. Let's say your body, it's like an energy. If they're all blocked up, it's got nowhere to go. But energy goes out of us, which is why massage therapists go
At the end.
and at the end. Or you look at many different cultures, they use something like that. In Thailand, if I do this to you,
Oh yeah.
you don't like that, do you? Like me doing that, it's going to bother you after a while. You're going to ask me to stop.
Yeah. Well, Thailand,
Thailand,
Japanese.
Japanese, they don't like that.
That's true.
I'm sure it's because energy
It's coming out this way.
Yeah, you're gonna have to move.
Can you suck in energy that way?
I haven't got those sucky feet. Yeah, actually, no, you're right. That's kind of like, I call it a vampire. Not in any way that I believe in vampires, but sometimes I've been on like a train or metro here, or I'm near someone, and I'm like, it feels like
they're taking
my energy. And this brings us to, you need to manage your energy, you need to manage your boundaries. In a dressing room, there's going to be people that are going to unconsciously be pushing you down, or sucking your energy, or giving you malware before the game without even knowing it. It's just some people like that. So there's that. So there can be a movement around the body, but if you strengthen your exit portals, which are the bottom of your torso, throat, armpits, hands, fingers, feet, toes, energy goes out.
Sorry, there's
but you can,
because in chakras they say
chakras. For me, I've worked with chakras a lot. I've worked with very famous player balancing chakras and stuff, and it doesn't really come up for me so much. But the idea chakra, because I've studied Tibetan medicine with one of the best Tibetan medicine guys, who's the leader of their medical department. It actually means knot, a knot. So when you have
a knot.
So when you have an energy blockage, it's like a knot. So these different areas, the chakras they're related to different stages of your life and different psychological challenges. So the solar plexus is to do with self-identity, self-worth. Root chakra, first 7 years, solar plexus, sacral chakra, next 7 years, so 7 to 14. So the bottom one is to do with the first 7 years, which is survival and safety, and to do with the legs. So you can start to look at problems with the legs to do with safety issues, parents, first 7 years. And then solar plexus are 14 to 21, which is self-identity, it's teenager years. It's why teenagers, they become punks or rebellious. So for anyone who's watching, these need to be understood. You're going to go through these phases and understand that the players in their teens who know their identity and are driven, they will succeed. And the ones that maybe were very good at football and then they lose their way is because they've lost they're not really sure of who they are. I'm sure Zidane in his teenage years was like, maybe he was a bit naughty, I don't know, but he would have been putting in the time.
Yeah, all disciplined and sacrifice.
Yeah. Heart chakra relationships, arms to do with relationships, left side of the body, feminine, masculine side. Someone has right arm problems, usually can be relationship, masculine father, partner, friends, left. These are just concepts, okay? But then the other thing is when something moves, it's not usually moving. So let's say you work on your friend's back, and so they say, on the right lower side, I've got pain, 5 out of 10, and you work on it, and then you say, okay, how is that pain on the right lower side? And they go, oh no, it's moved.
Yeah, or they're like, oh, well, actually my neck over here.
Yeah, no, what they've just done is you've removed that one, and now they're aware of the pain that was underneath.
Oh, okay.
But this one was the one they were most aware of. If you delete it, like you delete things, because we're computers, right? You can delete folders, you delete pop-ups, you just delete them. 1,000 years ago, healing took time. Healing takes time. Right? Everyone knows that. No, it's instant if you know what you're doing.
Yeah.
So what he did was you removed the first one. Now this one is completely different thing.
Oh,
but
okay.
he says it's moved, and you need to clarify. You say, no, that we've done that one. That's why I got you to tell me exactly where it is. This is something else. But if he thinks it's moved, he's like, this doesn't work. But
because I think a lot of people can relate to that, saying, my neck hurts, and it's like actually my bottom of my back.
Different can be completely different things. The back,
because you can only acknowledge one pain at a time, right?
Usually, or some people can have lots of pains. Like their body's really, but that's usually like they might have. This has happened loads of times. Like the neck is very much to do with judgment, criticism, blame things, but it can be something else. The bottom, we have reciprocals in our bodies. So the bottom brain area, which is sacrum coccyx tail, is like the MacBook Pro. Okay, brain. Okay. This brain is like the old IBM brain. And then this spinal cord is like the quantum computer. That's how I see things. So the bottom brain area manages this. This manages that. My right hand reciprocal is the left foot. So when you start to see these patterns, you can clear pain by looking for where actually the weakness is, not where the symptom is.
So, but obviously we're getting more into what you're. But I think, this is the next level of robbrinded.com, basically. So
and I kind of want young kids. I wish I'd known this.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
I mean, I wish I knew this 15 years ago.
Oh yeah. The amount of things that the amount of problems I had with my body, the lack of confidence in myself. That my journey is. I'm now 48. But I can give back to, if someone's looking at, want to find more about themselves, this analogy of your computer, I think everyone can get. And, I work with some of the best in every field, and this works with them, and they pay me a lot of money, and it's very valuable. So we're teaming up on this because you know how valuable it is, and we're here to share it.
Yeah, because I think I've seen, so in my experience, I've seen so many psychologists, because because every team had a psychologist if you're in a decent league, so or a dietitian. But a psychologist, because I always felt bad when I scored, but I always wanted to score. And when I felt bad in scoring, and I think some guys can relate to this, is that I felt bad for one of my best buddies who's sitting on the bench, or my good teammate that we get along with off the pitch. I'm playing, he's not playing. Mm-hmm. I'm scoring, I'm in the spotlight, he's not. I feel bad for him. Mm-hmm. So, and I was never that guy who had this ego thing. It's like, yeah, me. No, mm-hmm. It's like, yeah, thank you, but yeah, man, your chance will come, bro, kind of thing. You know, yeah. I was always...
There's some discomfort.
Yeah. So, and all the psychiatrists, there was so many different ways of like me sitting here, picture yourself sitting there, all these different kind of methods and stuff. But nothing works as clear as yours.
Yeah.
So,
and you want to be your own psychologist.
Yeah.
Like, let's say you're on the pitch and you feel bad.
And you want
to be able to go internal, and then you're back neutral.
Yeah.
And I don't want, like, if I kind of kept everything for myself, that's just, like some psychologists or some doctors, physios, they want to keep patients, so they charge them monthly. Yeah. But if I don't, like, if you can learn this yourself, go and I just want everyone to be able to have their, like, be sovereign.
Yeah.
Sovereign, like free. Have their own, like, everyone's walking around and they don't know how to use the computers. That's a big problem. Everyone is a computer and they don't know how to use it.
Yeah. And this is still so new. Well, I'm sure it's been about, like you said, like thousands of years ago, but still in this modern day, it's not considered.
A Zen master would be, when he talks in riddles. And like, the classic Zen master would be like,
to say the opposite directly, right?
He kind of makes the person like go keep thinking about something until they realize it was their mind. So there's a Zen master walking with a student, and there's a puddle, and there's a daemon, a woman coming the other way, and she can't get past. So he says, "Let me carry you," and he picks her up and holds her and carries her over, puts her down, and then carries on walking. And the student's like, Master, I can't believe you touched that woman. You held her and you lifted her and you carried her. And he said, but I put her down. You're still carrying her.
Wow.
Right? So
mentally he's still carrying her. Yeah.
Because it's the mind. So his beliefs around that he shouldn't carry a woman was beliefs. He's still carrying them.
Yeah.
But the Zen master was back. He wasn't carrying her anymore.
Yeah, he was in the moment.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So that's how they brought their message across.
Yeah.
So there are really weird ones, like Zen master. So the students go, Master, tell me the meaning of life. And he goes, the lily looks at the frog. And the student goes, oh, okay, I'll go away and think about that. I don't know if the Zen master's taking the piss or but it makes you really, like, that whole area is a lifetime journey to understand our minds, or to realize that we're not our minds. So that's kind of a heavy thing, but I'm just saying to everyone, you start now or you start later. Yeah. If you never start, you'll become so uncomfortable that you either later in life find a way to distract yourself from the discomfort with gambling, movies, drugs, alcohol, something to try and distract you, TV, problems, or you go internal. And that is the way of the peaceful warrior.
/ to be successful.
Yeah. And that's why the top guys do, all the Steve Jobs and, all the top guys try and do meditation.
Yeah.
But,
I think that's it. Our human computer is in our spinal column. Energetics, the monkey mind. You just said that. Understanding the thought and feeling and intuition. because I think a lot of people are thinking that they, with the intuition, that they think they're feeling, but really, so how can we differentiate when you think something's going to happen or you feel something's going to happen? How can we differentiate the mind and the feeling?
Well, there's quite a lot of confusion there.
Yeah.
It's confusing, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know how best to answer that. What I would say is when they're, let's say you have an internet connection.
Yeah.
You're really talking about how do you connect with your answers.
Yeah.
And how do you know you're not making answers up?
Yeah.
Kind of. So let's say you're on your computer and you're waiting for the internet to connect. You put the password in.
Yeah.
And then, but your mind is, I call it insight. So it's like your feeling, which is an internal, strong or weak. Most people say I feel angry, I feel this, I feel that. That really takes your internet away from you, your ability to connect with your own answers. So that's why when I'm teaching students, the feeling is strong or weak, nothing else. Don't use feeling, angry feeling. That's like a bad description word in English. And in Brazilian, they use it, and in Italy, they use it a lot. So feeling, your perception, your ability to perceive with all your senses, and this intuition. And then there are scientists say intuition doesn't exist. Okay, well, fine. You're looking at through things through a keyhole and thinking you're seeing everything. Yeah. So in my experience, there's this ability to connect with answers doesn't seem available. So that, let's call that your internet connection. Your mind will limit that. No, you can't do that. You can't. No, I know this. I know that. This is what happens. So the mind just limits our ability to connect with the creativity of the universe. So when the internet connection or your insight is fully on and your mind's out of the way, that's where you connect creativity with your creativity, or you're open to all the answers. So really, it's like if your internet's being affected by your mind, let's say it's blocking it, you won't be able to Google anything. You just be a bit lost. You won't know your own answers. So when you're mindless, then your physical intelligence connects with your answers. Somebody might say, "Oh, come on, that's not true. You need your mind." This comes from experience of years and years of trying everything. And really what all the wise men, the gurus and shaman, they use maybe sometimes plants to get their mind out of the way. Musicians use plants and drugs to connect with the creativity of the universe. I'm not talking about doing that. This is a way to do that without taking drugs. And it's not dangerous, really. Some people might think it is because their mind doesn't want it.
Yeah. But what about when your gut drops?
When you say your gut drops, you're like, it's not a nice feeling?
Not a nice feeling.
Yeah, that's when you know there's danger.
When your gut drops.
For me, like with the lady who was pregnant, I felt that. But when I was with the player and he was on the balance and I said, "What's the worst moment of your life?" I knew the exact moment he connected with it because I felt a drop. Like, oof. On an extreme level, when a team are playing and in the 95th minute, one team scores, what happens to the other team? Collapse.
Everybody just,
It's like, oh, and the crowd goes, you imagine how they must feel. Whoa. What happens when you hear very bad news? Oof. There's a collapse internally. The weakness gets triggered. Your energy collapses. So I think that's what me, in terms of my intuition, I'll get more of a thought, or I pick up on like there's something not right here. There's danger. Like it's not spider senses, but there's research by
But spider senses is something
for sure.
Yeah.
It is spider senses. The army have looked into why do some soldiers know something's not right.
Yeah.
And it's like precognition, and there is research into that, but it's so taboo that if you say you're working in it, you're ostracized by the scientific community, because the scientific community has become dogmatic. Science is, you have a hypothesis and you question it, but you don't go, no, you're not allowed to go in that area because it's woo-woo. No, you look at everything and look at the evidence and test it, and if it doesn't hold up, then it doesn't hold up. But in precognition and anything, Rupert Sheldrake, who's a fascinating speaker, he did a talk on TEDx where he talked about certain studies that are looking at things like precognition. And it was science. He said, this is the research. It's like allowing everyone to look at this research. It's fascinating. And everyone was fascinated. His talk was taken down by a group of anonymous scientists because it wasn't scientific. Well, they just don't like that. It's the dogma. I think he was talking about the dogma in the talk. So just on a side note, because I'm fascinated, I read in all areas. So he did a study way back about a woman who said her dog was psychic. Okay, whether or not, I'm not sure, but I thought, oh, that's interesting. But I don't go, oh, I believe it. So he went and researched it and did scientific experiments, and he found significant that the moment that the woman decided to go home, the dog would go to the window, because they timed it and they had cameras. So it was the moment she thought it, not walking up the street and the dog could hear her somehow. No, he would be with women. He'd say, okay, tell me. She goes, I'm making a decision now. She's like 6 kilometers away or something in town. She goes, I'm going home now. The dog would sit up and walk to the window. And it was.
And I think so many dogs are like this.
Right. So everyone can relate to that and go, okay. But the scientists, they sent a skeptic. Now, a skeptic, I'm skeptic. Like, I don't believe everything. Like, show me the evidence. Let's see if it works. But if you're dogmatic, you don't look at it. So he went there, he did the experiment, and looked at his evidence, and then wrote a hit piece on the guy saying it was BS. No, and years later he apologized because he Rupert Sheldrake said, well, that's a personal attack. The evidence is there. Look at the evidence. If it's not done right, let's do another one. But he did a hit piece on, because it's taboo to talk about anything woo-woo. So you're also fighting against the paradigm of scientists who still believe that everything's mechanical. Doctors think the body's mechanical. That's why you have surgeon for the knee. The endocrinologist never speaks to the dietitian. So everything's mechanical, and we, I'm quite interested in the lipid heart disease hypothesis that cholesterol and animal fat causes heart disease. Now, most people probably go, yeah, that's right, it does. But that was disproven years ago, and there's loads of research showing that it's very little effect on it. But the dogma stays, and humans don't change until everyone dies, and then, So these belief systems stay. So you got to, as a young person, start to question everything, and question what I do. If you don't want to do it, fine, I'm cool with that. But
be open to it.
Be open to it and try it and question. And if someone says, "Oh, that's," there are a lot of these belief systems that are staying. And what I see now is that, because it's kind of chaotic time, everyone's starting to question everything. And, so it doesn't mean that you don't believe everything, but you have to make up your own mind through experience. And that's why with this, we spoke before we joined, saying maybe this is too out there. But if we don't it's so important, so good. If we don't, we'll regret it.
So that's why we're gonna have some audios that they can try.
Yeah, and they
For
can
starters.
just play themselves. And it's ambitious of us.
Yeah.
We have to be ambitious.
But it really is the next level stuff. So
Yeah.
I have to introduce this.
Yeah.
Like you guys gotta try this.
Yeah, and you know, if you try and please everyone, you end up pleasing no one.
Yeah.
And everything's so polarized at the moment. Some people will go, "Oh, that's BS. You know, this is crazy, loony." Just fine. I'm all about high performance, getting results. That's been my way for ways, and it's always served me well.
Yeah. And you've been up there, so that's why this is perfect. This conversation is perfect.
Yeah.
I think that's it. We were kind of saying who is this applicable to, but it's kind of said that it's not just the player; it's also the parents that care a lot for the young aspiring athlete.
Very much so.
I think
That's
the
all. That's
coaches-
crucial.
Yeah,
So I'm a father.
yeah,
I have a tendency to, you know, if I overly want, if I'm not neutral to my daughter, like, I want her to be a black belt in jiu-jitsu. If I force her that way, because I want to be a black belt in jiu-jitsu, it'll probably force her the other way. Or if I'm like, I want her to defend herself because I'm really worried that one day someone might do something to her, I need to be working on that. Because otherwise, my experience is you always attract your worst nightmares.
yeah,
It's all about neutrality.
yeah. Yeah, like I have a 8-year-old son now. I want him to play football, but yeah, I'm totally neutral about it.
Right. And
When
when
he was born, I was like, he has to be a footballer.
Sure.
But now, of course, I'm like, he likes tennis. Oh, he likes tennis.
Sure.
Yeah.
But you're a leader. You're ambitious, you're a leader, and you show the way. You don't force. If you try and force someone, you just push them the other way.
Yeah,
You show by leading, by being the light. And that comes from working on yourself. It's counterintuitive.
yeah,
Don't try and change your external environment and force it. Just work on your internal environment, how you feel about it, and that will change your external environment.
boom. You
It's
just summed it up nicely right there.
Yeah. Truth.
There it is.
Boom.
There it is. Thanks, Rob. That was it.
Cool, man.